Hi guys, I know I said I was going to make a video every week, but I've been busy, and also just like when I wasn't busy, I've been binge watching things on Netflix, and I just wasn't really sure what to talk about, which is one of the main problems I have with doing videos weekly. But I figured I could make a short video, and by short I mean hopefully around 5 minutes, about sexual assault. And the reason I thought this is an important video to make is because, I mean, literally, like, one of the people running for the highest office we have here in America has a tape that was leaked of him saying, he can grab women by the pussy and nobody cares, because I think it was basically saying because he was a celebrity. And there are some people defending that statement and saying that's not rapey, aka sexual assault. But let's go ahead and get that out of the way. It is very rapey, and that is sexual assault. So, I'm going to go ahead and say that I think that the issue of consent is partially a problem that we have because of our school systems. Now, I'm not going to get really political and get into this a lot, but think about it. A lot of school systems either don't have a sex ed program, or they have really shitty sex ed programs that are like, don't have sex, be celibate, or you're gonna get pregnant and die, or you're gonna catch an STD and die. Like, you remember Mean Girls? Like, there are places that are for real like that. So, of course, if we're not talking about sex in school, we're also not talking about consent in school. And when we're not talking about any of those things in school, they become like kind of like areas that we think are not up for discussion. So a lot of people don't have these kinds of top discussions, not topics, these type of discussions about these topics with their parents, because, like I said, it suddenly becomes this like issue that's put in like a box and taped around, like, oh, we don't talk about that, even though at some point everyone, or most everyone, is going to have sex. It's stupid, it doesn't make sense, and on top of that we have rape culture, which makes everything like 1,000 times worse. So another thing I want to get out of the way really fast is also the fact that I will probably say, like, if she doesn't want to do this, then don't, because I'm a woman. But let's not ignore the fact that there are men that are raped either by women or by men. It happens. Let's not act like it doesn't. And don't be one of those dicks that's like, how are you, man, getting raped by a woman? I don't want to talk about it, but it's a thing. It happens to people. Sexual assault also doesn't have to be penetration. So there's other ways that men can be sexually assaulted by women as well. And yes, so glad that we got that out of the way. Moving on, the issue of consent. We're going to talk about it quickly. Like I said, I want to make this a short video. So, a lot of people, I think, assume that when someone doesn't say no, it's equivalent to saying yes. Let's go ahead and get this out of the way now. That's not true at all. Things that, like, literally, there are so many different ways, I feel like, that people can kind of signal that they're uncomfortable in a situation or whatever, and that is also a lack of consent. So there's straight up saying no, but then there's also like, I think we should slow down, I'm not comfortable with this, those are all things where it's like, you don't have consent to continue, and if you do, you're sexually assaulting someone. And if you have questions about whether or not what you're doing is consensual, if you're not really sure about whether or not she's consented to what you're doing, just ask. It's very simple. Like, do you mind if I take off your top? Do you mind if I take off your pants? Do you mind if I insert blank of whatever kind of sexual activity you're intending on doing? If she says at any point, yes, that makes me uncomfortable, stop. And I'm not talking about stop and be like, oh, come on, why? You've gone this far, da-da-da-da-da, it's not like you're a virgin, any of that shit. Like, if you're one of those guys, you're rapey too. Because let me tell you a thing, pressuring a woman into sex after she said she's not interested in having sex with you, even if she ends up giving in, is rapey. And I will tell you from firsthand experience that there have been situations where I feel like I was sexually violated because I blatantly expressed disinterest in a situation and was not like hit or beaten or anything like that or tied down, but felt as though I was forced to engage in a situation, in activities that I had blatantly expressed that I did not want to engage in, and on top of that, felt that my voice was taken away because I had expressed that I was not interested in that, and I was not being heard, I was being ignored, and things ended up happening that I did not want to happen because I was not, like, even though I had been vocal, my voice was like, it was like I was on mute, and I blamed myself for that because I felt like, oh, well, I didn't do enough to stop the situation, but, you know, that's sexual assault. Like, if someone tells you no and you turn it into a yes anyway, that's assault. Like, you can't do that because, like I said, like, honestly, as a woman, the issue of, like, consent and sex and stuff, like, it's very difficult because there is, like, part of this that rape culture has kind of taught as, like, well, you know, if you didn't want it, you wouldn't have been there. If you didn't want it, you would, like, you know, and stuff like that. Like, it's difficult for a woman to feel empowered enough to really get out of a bad situation like that. And a lot of people think I'm a very vocal person and I'm very straightforward and about, like, I'm not, you know, I don't take any shit, and most of the time that's true, but when I tell you that, like, in those situations you feel like you lost your voice, like, there's nothing you can do because that, like, no one's listening, you're not getting listened to, like, that's, I mean, it's bad then, and it's bad later on when you reflect on it, and like I said, you feel like you've been violated, and you thought you did the right thing, but then you question whether or not you could have done more. So, like, for the sake of everyone involved, let's just make consent simple. The lack of absence of consent, aka saying no, is not equivalent to someone saying yes. Someone saying, I don't know if I'm ready for this, is also, like, is essentially equivalent to no. If someone says, I don't think I'm ready for this, don't say, oh, come on, let's, like, you know, it's fine, it'll be fine. Don't pressure them. Just accept it and say, okay, that's fine. If you care about someone, you can wait. If you don't care about someone, please don't make them question who they are, what they do, all of that stuff because you want sex. Like, and any kind of touching that is not welcomed by a woman is a sexual assault. Like, if you go up behind a woman in the club and, like, you force you kind of pull her back into you, that could be considered sexual assault. Like, it could. Now, maybe it's not for everyone, and that's fine, but you need to understand that you can't just go around grabbing random women and doing random things and thinking that's okay, because it's not. A woman deserves to feel as though she has control of her body and the choices that she's making with her body. Like, you, as a man, have no right to make a woman feel as though she lacks control of what's going on with her own body. And vice versa. Like, men and women, same, you know, like, just everyone, you know, keep your hands to your fucking self and let you know it's okay to put your hands on someone else. That's really as simple as it is. I don't really understand why anyone's even arguing what Trump said isn't sexual assault. It's fucking sexual assault. Don't grab people. Don't do anything. Just, like, ask for some consent. Make sure that everyone's okay with everything you're doing. Don't damage people. Like, be a good fucking person. That's really all it comes down to, is just be a good fucking person, people, okay? Alright, that's all I wanted to say. Goodbye.